Hey guys, and welcome to another video about Nikke, Goddess of Victory. And today, we have my pre-release analysis on Laplace. Laplace is the next character releasing sometime next week after Helm's banner. And today, we are able to take a look at her kit from a reliable source in TN. We will be going over all the information about her skills, look at her potential role, talk about how good I think she is compared to the other characters with the same role, and we will also take a look at some of the potential teams for her. As always, if you find this video useful, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let's jump right in. So first, let's start with the basics. Laplace is an SSR unit that has a burst type 3. She has the iron element, she is classified as an attacker, uses a rocket launcher, and she is from the missileless line of units. For her normal attack, she of course uses a rocket launcher, which means she has no range restriction, dealing the same damage regardless of how far the enemy is. Her normal attack deals 63.11% of attack as damage. It has a 0.60 per second fire rate, 200% core strike damage, and a 1.45% charge attack multiplier. This is pretty standard compared to the other rocket launcher units that we have, so let's now move on to her skills. So the first one is a passive skill called Heroic Mission. When a fully charged attack hits, she will increase her explosion range damage by 8.87% at level 1 and 15.01% at level 10. This effect can stack up to 5 times and it also lasts for 5 seconds. This skill is pretty good just because she has a fairly quick charge time on her normal attack, which is about 1 charge attack every 1.5 seconds. So you can quickly get max stacks on the skill effect. This will give you anywhere from 44% to 75% explosion range increase depending on the skill level. Moving on to her second skill, which is called Hero Bomber. When the last bullet in her magazine hits, she deals an additional damage equal to 95.69% of attack at level 10. This also has another effect which reads, when the boss part hits, additional damage will be caused to the target. The additional damage is equal to 69.3% of attack. It's pretty hard to tell what this exactly means since this was translated from Chinese, but this could possibly mean that you deal additional damage after hitting a boss weak point. This skill is also pretty good, and just like her first skill, this fits her kit really well, especially since she fires her weapon quite frequently, making the second effect on this skill trigger more often. And next up we have her burst skill, which is called Laplace Bomb. This skill has a 40-second cooldown and has an iron element damage type. This changes her weapon into a laser cannon that deals an initial damage equal to 448.8% of her attack. And this alternate weapon will deal sustained damage equal to 2.26% of attack power. It also has a 1000 ammo capacity, just like what we've seen from the character banner trailer. This weapon lasts for 10 seconds and it also has a penetration effect, which means you can hit multiple enemies at the same time. There is also another effect which deals additional damage if you use her burst skill while you have maximum stacks of her Heroic Mission passive. The damage is equal to 2.97% of attack and it will ignore the enemy's defense. From the looks of it, this can be a very strong ability and it's sort of like a different variation of Snow White's burst skill. The one advantage of this is that, unlike Snow White's alternate weapon, Laplace has a weapon that deals consistent damage for 10 seconds, while Snow White's weapon charges up and deals one massive damage, which in some cases might not even hit the enemy, especially in stages where the enemy is teleporting. So I can see Laplace being better in this department. As for her role, she is definitely going to be a main damage dealer, as you can tell from her abilities. All of her skills are damage oriented and everything works well in her kit. So moving on to her team comps. There are a lot of options when it comes to her teams, which is the same case with every other burst type 3 DPS. You have your standard 113 team with lighter volume or N102 for burst 1, Dollar for burst 2, and 2 other burst type 3 DPS. This team comp will help Laplace use her burst skill more often, which is very useful since her burst skill is where her damage mostly comes from. But considering that Laplace is a rocket launcher unit, there are also quite a few more characters you can incorporate in your teams if you want her to shine more as a main DPS. And the first character that comes to mind is Yan. Her skill 1 will increase your team's charge attack damage for 10 seconds during full burst mode, which pairs really well with Laplace. And Yan's second skill also increases attack and crit rate for your team, further increasing your team's damage. Admi is also a great choice for your burst 2 slot. She also increases your team's charge attack damage, though not as frequent as Yan's buff. It still gives a pretty sizable buff that lasts for a long time. Admi also has a very strong burst skill that only has a 20-second cooldown, which increases reload speed and critical damage, so you can't go wrong with using her as a replacement for Dala. Another really good pick for a Laplace team is Alice. She can fill one of your burst type 3 DPS slots because she increases charge speed and charge damage for 2 of your allies with the highest attack. So in combination with the other units, she really is a good pick for Laplace. Essentially, any character that can reduce skill cooldowns, increase reload speed, reduce ammo capacity, increase charge attack damage, increase attack, crit rate or crit damage will be a good candidate for a Laplace team. To give you a few examples, we have a really good free-to-play team and a more advanced full SSR team. The free-to-play team will consist of N102, Anise, Private, Rappy, and Laplace. N102 is generally the go-to burst type 1 character if you don't have lighter or volume. But some people might argue that N102 can even be better than volume, but that's besides the point. Anise is in your team to take some damage off of your main DPS and shred enemy defense, and Private, a character that you can get for free just by doing missions, has a very high burst potential, and her ability to reduce ammo capacity and increase reload speed means that Laplace can trigger the additional damage from her second skill more often. And then of course you have Rappy as one of your main damage dealers while also helping your team activate full burst more often. You can definitely get creative with the Laplace teams if you're fairly new to the game and are looking to go for her, or maybe you're looking to reroll for her in your new account. You can absolutely make use of Laplace even with just the starter units, and then you can just replace some of the characters if you manage to get ones that fill the same role and does it better. Now for a more advanced SSR team that's not necessarily following the cookie cutter lighter dollar volume team composition. We have Yan, Admi, Alice, and Maxwell. This is more like a charge attack hyper carry team where most of them will provide more damage to the charge attacks for their team. If you find it hard to survive, you can replace Maxwell with a healer or shielder. Aside from this, you can of course go with the standard lighter Dallas Scarlet Haran team comp, and you can just slot in Laplace in it. Overall, I think Laplace is going to be a great character for stages where there are a lot of enemies present. I like this pattern they're going with, where they released Helm as a single target queen, and now we have Laplace who will excel in stages where there are waves of enemies. It's still pretty hard to tell where she lands on the current meta, but I'm confident that she will be near the top of the tier list, but not necessarily game-breaking or as strong as the premier burst type 3 DPS units. With all that said, that is my pre-release analysis for Laplace. She's looking to be a very good DPS unit that will shine in stages where you have a lot of enemies, and if that's a character that you need for your team, she is a good candidate for it. Make sure that you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I will be testing her out when she gets released, so you don't want to miss out on my complete Laplace guide soon. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.